All right, today we're cracking open a really foundational piece of ancient law. We're talking about Leviticus chapter 17. And this chapter is all about a set of super specific, really detailed rules that governed everything from sacrifice and worship to something they considered so sacred it was literally the essence of life itself, and that's blood.
So, to really get a grip on this, we're going to break it down into three main parts. First, we'll look at this super strict rule about having only one place to worship. Then, we'll get into the absolute ban on consuming blood. And finally, we'll explore the why behind it all, the spiritual reasons for these laws, and yeah, the pretty serious consequences if you broke them.
Okay, first up, let's get into something that might seem a little strange to us today, this almost obsessive focus on geography. I mean, the text is crystal clear. When it came to making a sacrifice, the location, it was everything.
So, right out of the gate, the text poses this really critical question. Imagine you're living back then, right? You want to offer an ox or a lamb or a goat. Well, you couldn't just do it in your backyard or wherever you felt like it. Nope. There was one and only one officially sanctioned spot. And this lays out the core commands so clearly. You had the right way, and then you had the very, very wrong way. The right way was to bring your animal to the door of the central sanctuary, the tabernacle. The wrong way, well, that was sacrificing it anywhere else, what the text calls in the open field. And this wasn't just a simple suggestion, you guys. Doing it wrong was considered a crime, like you were shedding blood unlawfully. And it wasn't just about the place, but also the process. You couldn't perform the ritual yourself. You had to bring the animal to the priest, and he would then handle the most sacred elements, sprinkling the blood on the altar, burning the fat as an offering. The priest was the essential intermediary. You just couldn't do it without him. So you gotta ask, why? Why all this fuss about one location? Well, the text is super direct about it. It was to stop the Israelites from sacrificing to what it calls devils, or some translations say goat demons, out in the fields, which was a practice they'd apparently gotten into. But think about it. This was more than just about religious purity. It was a brilliant move to unify everyone around one God and one central sanctuary. It was about creating a single shared identity. All right, so controlling where people worshipped was a huge first step. But the second principle in this chapter, well, this one gets even more personal, and you could argue it's the most important one of all. We're talking about the absolute, no exceptions allowed prohibition on consuming blood. And this isn't just another rule on the list. This is the core belief that the entire system is built on. And really, everything else we're going to talk about flows from this one powerful statement. The whole legal and spiritual framework here is built on this core idea that blood is life. Not just a symbol of it, not just a fluid in the body, it's the physical manifestation of the life force itself. So starting from that central idea, the text gives us four really clear rules. First, a total ban on eating any kind of blood, period. Second, this rule applies to everybody, no exceptions. Third, if you're out hunting and you catch an animal for food, you have to pour its blood out onto the ground. And fourth, after you've poured it out, you have to cover that blood with dust. It's like you're respectfully returning it to the earth. And here's something really interesting. Notice how inclusive this law was, especially for the ancient world. The text makes a point of stressing over and over that this rule isn't just for native Israelites. It's for any foreigner living among them too. So this wasn't an ethnic law. It was a law of the land. The message was clear. If you're living in this community, you live by its most sacred rules. All right, so we've got the rules down. Sacrifice in one place and don't consume blood. Simple enough, right? But now let's get into these so what. Let's explore the spiritual logic driving all this. And yeah, the really severe consequences for anyone who dared to break these rules. So because blood is seen as life itself, it was given this one unique holy job. The text says it's been given upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. That's its purpose. You don't eat it because it's been reserved for something way more important. This sacred, reconciling act right at the very heart of their worship. And the text doesn't mess around when it comes to consequences. It's laid out with, honestly, a kind of chilling clarity. If you broke one of the main rules, like sacrificing in the wrong place or eating blood, the punishment was to be cut off. And that didn't just mean a slap on the wrist. We're talking about being excommunicated, totally exiled from the community and from your connection to God.
And even for smaller things, you weren't off the hook. You still had to bear your iniquity, which basically means you were on the hook, personally accountable for what you did. And it's really worth pointing this out one more time, because the text itself keeps repeating it. Who was held to this standard? Everybody. By applying these incredibly serious laws equally to both the native-born and the immigrant, the code was pushing this really radical idea for its time, that community isn't just about your bloodline. It's about a shared commitment to a divine law and a common way of worship.
So, when you pull it all together, what's the big picture here? Well, these ancient rules weren't just random laws. They created an entire worldview, a world where life is sacred, where worship is something you do together, and where your personal actions have huge spiritual consequences. And it really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? How do these foundational ideas about the sanctity of blood and life still echo today? You can see their influence in religious dietary laws, in modern ethical debates, and in concepts of faith, even thousands of years later.